Have you ever paused to ask yourself why the fundamental cost of survival seems to be on a permanent upward trajectory? Let's rewind the clock to the year 2000. Back then, a standard burger might have cost you around $2. Yet, here we are in 2024, and to purchase that exact same item, you are looking at nearly $6. This pressure isn't isolated to the grocery aisle. A movie ticket, which was a $5 expense in 2000, can easily breach the $10 mark today for the exact same cinematic experience, the exact same seat. So, what is the invisible engine driving this relentless escalation? Why do costs refuse to stay static? And is this simply a case of merchants coordinating to price gouge the consumer? The core answer to this phenomenon is inflation. You have undoubtedly heard the term, but do you truly grasp its mechanics, its root causes, and whether it is always the villain of the economic story? Our goal today is to meticulously dissect the concept of inflation and illuminate the gears turning beneath the surface, redefining the mechanism. At its most fundamental level, inflation is a measurable decline in the tourist's purchasing power of currency over time. Its most visible symptom is the general rise in the prices of goods and services. This is precisely why everyday items, like the burger we mentioned, are vastly more expensive today than they were a decade or two ago. As inflation takes hold, every unit of currency in your wallet buys a smaller quantity of goods. Consider a historical snapshot. In the 1970s, the average price for a cup of coffee was roughly 25 cents. If you took that same quarter into a coffee shop in 2024, you wouldn't even be able to buy the empty plastic cup. Therefore, while the price tag of coffee has skyrocketed, the reality is that the effective value of your money has evaporated, creating the illusion that things are becoming more expensive. But the critical question remains, what triggered this devaluation? Decoding the drivers of inflation. Inflationary pressure doesn't stem from a single source. It arises from a complex web of factors. We will focus on the four most powerful and universal engines. First, demand pull inflation. This occurs when aggregate demand, spending, outpaces the economy's aggregate supply. Production capacity. In simple terms, too many people competing for too few products. Look at the corn market. Under normal conditions, farmers produce 10 tons, matching market demand. But imagine a disaster like a tornado wipes out 80% of the harvest, leaving only 3 tons. The demand for food remains constant, but the extreme scarcity forces buyers to bid against each other. A can of corn that cost $2 might jump to $3. In this scenario, high demand has effectively pulled the price upward. Second, cost push inflation. This type originates on the home supply side, where prices rise because the inputs of production have become more expensive. Consider a popcorn vendor selling bags for $3. His costs are $1 for corn and $1 for overhead, leaving him $1 of profit. If a supply shock doubles the price of raw corn to $2, his profit is wiped out if he keeps the price static. To preserve his $1 margin, he is forced to raise the price to $4. Here, the rising cost of raw materials or labor has pushed the final consumer price higher. Third, built-in inflation, the wage price spiral. This is a vicious feedback loop between wages and prices. As the cost of living climbs, workers naturally demand higher wages to maintain their standard of living. For instance, a shoe factory worker with $900 in monthly expenses and a $1,000 salary is doing fine. But if inflation pushes his living cost to $1,000, he loses his buffer and demands a raise. The company grants him $1,200. However, this increased labor cost raises the company's production expenses, forcing them to raise the price of shoes to maintain profitability. This, in turn, raises the general price level again, leading to the next round of wage demands. It is a cycle with no clear end. Fourth, excessive money supply. When money is injected into an economy too rapidly, it inevitably sparks inflation, because a larger volume of currency is chasing the same amount of goods. Suppose there are 5 loaves of bread priced at $5 each, and 5 buyers each have $5. The market is in equilibrium. If the government suddenly airdrops an additional $5 to every person, everyone now holds $10 and wants to buy 2 loaves. But the supply remains fixed at 5 loaves. The bakery, seeing this surge, raises the price to $10 per loaf. Ultimately, each person still only buys 1 loaf, but they pay double. The price didn't rise because the bread improved. It rose because the bank currency was diluted. This is the path to economic catastrophes like those seen in Zimbabwe or Venezuela, where reckless printing rendered paper money functionally worthless. Measuring the beast, metrics versus reality. Because inflation directly attacks your wallet, measuring it is critical. Governments and central banks rely on the inflation rate to steer the economy. But how is this number derived? The primary metric used globally is the Consumer Price Index, CPI. The CPI tracks the average price change of a specific basket of representative goods and services. A simple example. In 2024, a basket of 5 items costs $30. In 2025, that same basket costs $30.90. This difference indicates a general price increase of 3%. Thus, the CPI is set at 3%. However, a crucial truth must be acknowledged. A low CPI does not mean life is affordable. In our example, while the overall CPI is only 3%, the price of essentials like bread, milk and eggs might have surged by 10 or 15%. Conversely, non-essentials like movie tickets or scented candles might not have risen at all, dragging the average down. Therefore, even when the headlines claim inflation is low, households often feel immense financial strain because the items they must buy every day are the very ones inflating the fastest, i.e. the dual nature, good, bad and ugly. If inflation erodes wealth, should we aim for zero inflation or even negative inflation, deflation? Economically speaking, not necessarily. 1. The catalyst, moderate inflation. A small, predictable amount of inflation, around 2 to 3%, is considered the sweet spot. Why? Because it incentivizes people to spend and invest rather than hoarding cash under the mattress. If you know prices will be slightly higher next year, you are encouraged to buy today. This velocity of money fuels businesses, creates jobs, and keeps the economic gears turning. 2. The danger, deflation, negative inflation. When prices fall across the board, it sounds appealing, but it is a massive economic danger signal. Falling prices cause business revenues to collapse, which leads to cost cutting, specifically wage cuts and layoffs. People lose income, so they spend even less, forcing prices down further. The Great Depression of the 1930s is the starkest proof of the destructive power of a deflationary spiral. 3. The catastrophe, hyperinflation. If moderate inflation is a stimulant, hyperinflation is an overdose. This occurs when the inflation rate exceeds 50% per month. Prices don't just rise, they explode. A loaf of bread costing $3 today could be $4.50 next month and hundreds of dollars by next year. Venezuela is the modern case study, where the currency lost its function as a medium of exchange and citizens were forced to carry sacks of cash just to buy basics. Mechanisms of control. To navigate between the cliffs of deflation and hyperinflation, policymakers use 2 main levers, the central bank and the government. 1. The central bank, monetary policy. They utilize interest rates and the money supply. Interest rates. This is the cost of borrowing money. When inflation is hot, they raise rates to make debt expensive, forcing individuals and businesses to curb spending, which cools down prices. Conversely, when the economy stalls, they cut rates to stimulate borrowing and spending. Open market operations. They buy or sell government bonds to inject or drain cash from the system. Buying bonds pumps money in, increasing liquidity. Selling bonds sucks money out, decreasing liquidity. 2. The government, fiscal policy. They utilize taxes and public spending. Taxes. Raising taxes reduces the disposable income in people's pockets, dampening spending when inflation is high. Cutting taxes stimulates demand when the economy is weak. Public spending. The government injects money by funding infrastructure like bridges and roads, creating income for companies and workers. Cutting these projects is a potent way to withdraw money from the economy, though it is often politically painful. Strategies for wealth protection. The traditional advice to save money in a piggy bank is obsolete. Inflation is the silent thief picking your pocket every single day. $1,000 stored in a safe in 2014 has lost a massive chunk of its purchasing power by 2024. The only defense is investing. Gold is the traditional hedge due to its limited supply, but to truly build wealth, investors look to equities or real estate. The most critical number you need to know is the real rate of return, your profit minus inflation. Let's look at 3 friends in 2014, each with $1,000. Bob bought tech stocks, Jack bought gold, and Tony put his money in a savings account. 10 years later, Bob has $9,000, 25% annual return. Jack has $1,800, 6% annual return. Tony has $1,114, 1% annual interest. If average inflation was 2%, Bob made a real return, of 23%, his wealth exploded. Jack made a real return of 4%. He preserved his value and made a modest profit. Tony made a real return of -1%. The bank interest didn't keep up with inflation, meaning his money actually evaporated in value. In conclusion, inflation is an inherent feature of the modern economic game. You cannot hide from it, but you can learn to coexist with it and beat it. Do not let your capital sit idle. Convert it into productive assets that run faster than the rate at which your currency is being debased. We have just decoded the inflation machine. Make sure to subscribe for more sharp economic analysis and leave a comment below sharing the strategies you are using to shield your wealth.